Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, September 29th, and Mizzou football is ranked. Mizzou football is flying high, headed into its Week 5 matchup against Vanderbilt. Kenny and Peyton, remember the last time that happened? We talked about it during the SEC tier list. Mizzou at that time, back in 2019, I think we all remember it well. 5-1, if my memory serves. Number 23 lost on the road to a Vanderbilt team that then, continued to, or caused, I guess, a spiral. That Mizzou ended that season 6-6. Now again, marching into the construction site this week in a similar position. Let's just start right there. Recording here on a Thursday, obviously, but 2 days out for you guys, a day out for our viewers and listeners. How are we feeling headed into what we've dubbed very much a trap game? We knew Memphis was kind of a trap game being in St. Louis. They overcame that hurdle relatively comfortably. We're going to talk about, especially the injuries. I think it'll be a big issue heading to Vanderbilt. But how are you guys feeling headed into week number 5 and the infamous Vandy road game?
Feeling better, it seems like the injury situation has cooled a bit on Tuesday. I mean, it's felt like just about everybody was on the injury report, even Cook and Luther. They were both listed as questionable, and Drinkwitz says he gives them about a 50, everybody that's questionable, about a 50-50 chance to play. You can believe that if you want. I personally don't believe that. I think he knows their status really already. And Callum McAndrew, he tweeted that both Cook and Burden were full participants. Drinkwitz said they were full participants on Tiger Talk. Ennis Rakestraw and Drayden Norwood appeared to be full participants, according to Callum McAndrew. So those are very positive signs. Also, Brett Norfleet, we thought maybe his injury was going to be a bit more major. Turns out Drinkwitz expects him to possibly play this weekend. So really good news on the injury front. That should alleviate some of the fear from this game.
We're going to get back to the Mizzou Vandy preview in just a minute. But first, quick word from our sponsor, Bet Online. Football is back, and Bet Online is your number one information source for all your sports wagering and info with all the up-to-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from both the NFL and college football right at your fingertips with Bet Online's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, Bet Online gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available online. We love using their lines for our football Fantastic Four picks. So head to the website today and use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember, use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And now back to the Mizzou Vandy preview.
Two more that I saw in here, and you guys can maybe talk a little bit more about Mekhi Miller, but Darius Robinson was listed as questionable, and Mekhi Miller, and we see Callum always know, and I've noted this last year, is that the full injury report comes out Thursday evening, and so we'll maybe get a little bit more on that. But Mekhi Miller, I think he was injured in that last game. I told you guys I didn't get to watch the full thing, but what happened there for him?
Mekhi Miller, I mean, he's just had what did they call it? He had stitches in one of his hands recently. I think it was after the week 1 game, and he's tried to play through it, and he's played pretty poorly. So I think they're just giving him a reset. And then Darius Robinson, nagging calf injury. He kind of re-aggravated it in the St. Louis game. They said they want to get him some rest. This might be the game to do it.
Yeah. I think Peyton did a good update on Miller, and that you guys, that was the first place I was going to go, which I think was natural for all of us. it was the injuries we saw. I think some criticisms, I kind of half joking of the 15-year-old turf or whatever it was that they were playing, that people said they were playing on in St. Louis. Obviously, that's not the sole cause of all these injuries, but it's good to see some positive news. Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get a quote tweet or something up this evening when we see kind of the full report. But obviously, this team needs everybody to go to get clicking. Otherwise, I think they can struggle against just about everybody. We've already seen it. That in the past with South Dakota a little bit, and even Middle Tennessee to some extent. I want to turn to Vandy briefly because you two have talked about this, especially when we've done the fraud rankings. You guys were both fairly high on Vandy. Peyton, if I remember right, you picked them, I think, to finish above Florida originally in the SEC standings, which, I'm not trying to come for you with that take. It's just something I remember. And I know you've been thoroughly disappointed, especially in Kenny as well. But, there's obviously something that made you, think that. What does this Vandy team have that can hurt Mizzou, and what has not maybe met your expectations so far this year that you're hoping Mizzou can continue to, keep down in order to avoid the upset?
It was more I think Florida is going to be really bad this year take, but I still don't think they're very good. I think that the win over Tennessee, until I see otherwise, was completely fake. But Vanderbilt also, coming into this year, there was so much talent on offense. They have two really, really good receivers. Shepard, I think, is honestly among the best in the SEC. AJ Swann flashed a lot of talent last year. He's just been a turnover machine. Vanderbilt's run defense has been just putrid this year. That should be a point of emphasis for Mizzou. You might see a heavier dose of the rushing attack today, this Saturday rather. So yeah, Clark Lee. He had things going in the right direction, but it seems like the progress has been lost this year. There's really been nothing to hang their hat on. Their two wins are they just barely hung on against a bad Hawaii team. Hawaii has still been just terrible this year outside of that game, and Alabama A&M, which FCS. That's just what it is.
Yeah, on the offensive side, there's really just only two prime targets. You mentioned the two wide receivers there, and Will Shepard and Jaden McGowan. Jaden McGowan's a sophomore, and he was incredible last season. He and Luther Burden were two of the best young wide receivers in the SEC. He can do it. He did it on special teams as well, and he looked strong everywhere. On Saturday, though, he didn't pick up a reception. So that's something to keep an eye on, and a guy that really just kind of pops up in that receiving core as well, who only has 12 receptions this year, is London Humphreys, who's a freshman. Big wide receiver. He wears number 83 if you're going to keep an eye out for him. Kind of showing up in those two games against UNLV and Wake Forest with over 100 yards in both. But his receptions are going up a little bit. He's looking to get more targets. He has 3 touchdowns this season as well. So those are the 3 prime targets to keep an eye on for this weekend. Of course, it's going to be different without AJ Swann out there. And you talk about the turnovers, 7 interceptions this year, 9 turnovers total. Maybe that's another thing to keep an eye on just for Vanderbilt, is to see if those turnovers might go down without AJ Swann out there. As the interceptions, you could go through and watch every interception. Maybe some of them don't get blamed on AJ Swann, but maybe the interceptions go down with a different quarterback on the field.
Yeah. Okay. Turning to Mizzou now. It was, I think Peyton and I talked about it. I think an overall good performance against Memphis. I think we were pretty satisfied with what we got. Forced 2 more turnovers on defense. I know that's a big thing. Offensive line, I think still doing its job for the most part. Those have been at least the 2 parts of the game that I've probably been the most concerned with, or like, I could see more out of those parts of Missouri's team. But, in thinking of what Vanderbilt can bring, what does Mizzou, what do you guys want to see out of Mizzou this time around? I personally, again, a third thing I'll add, starting off with another explosive play. We've had back-to-back games now, just 2 bombs by Brady Cook to a pair of young receivers in Luther Burden, and then we saw Marquise Johnson getting on the end of, I think this is the longest touchdown of the year now, 76 yards in that Memphis game. What do you guys want to see, and who maybe personnel wise do you want to see step up either side of the ball, special teams, wherever you want to go?
The defense needs to get off the field quickly. like just faster. I mean, they've just given up too many 3rd and 4th down conversions this year. Luckily, they've been starting to force more turnovers. And whether it's Ken Seals or AJ Swann this weekend at quarterback, you would hope they'd be able to maybe force another. Personnel-wise, I'm interested to see how the D-line holds up, especially without Darius Robinson. But really, the main thing is the entire defense just gotta miss less tackles. I mean, there were too many slip tackles last week, and that's been the major reason they have not been able to be as effective on 3rd and 4th down as you hope. That's the main thing I'm hoping for. Offense, get Luther Burden the ball. He's a playmaker. We've seen it. He's among the best receivers in the nation. I don't think there's any doubt. So you got to get the ball in the hands of your best playmaker. I expect to see a lot of running in this game, whether it's designed from Brady Cook, although that may be ill-advised, considering we heard this past week that Brady Cook got so badly hurt on that QB draw near the end of the first half. It was originally planned for them to bring Sam Horn out for the second half. Now, Brady Cook probably was like, I'm good, we'll be fine, but you want to see them take less shots on the QB. Brady Cook's got to learn to slide in those instances, but yeah, the biggest thing I'm looking for, defense needs to get off the field on 3rd down. If they do that this week, it should be no problem.
Yeah, looking at that defense or the offensive side of the ball too, going off what Peyton's saying, I think Cody Schrader just building off last game is something that I've read about a couple times, and just seeing the 8.8 average yards per carry against Memphis looked good. 14 carries with 123 yards. That's something just to keep an eye on. I was looking more into what Vanderbilt's defense has been putting up, because I read that the rushing defense isn't all that strong. Yards per play, they're allowing 5.68 yards per play, and that's in the likes of Ball State, Louisiana Tech, and New Mexico. So, I mean, you look at the logo of Vanderbilt, you think about the history that this football team has. It's still, they're still dwindling in very subpar play. And you look at how many yards they're giving up per play. The total yards per game is also not very impressive. So, I mean, this is an opportunity for this offense to fire on all cylinders and show those explosive plays. I liked how you brought that up too, Jack. That was one thing that we wanted to see 2 weeks ago, and they've done it the last 2 games. It's just, who's going to get the ball in this explosive play to start this one.
I love it. I love seeing it. It's such a great, like, the deja vu I got when Marquise Johnson caught that on their first drive, just a flashback to last game. Like, it goes back to what I said. It's an SEC type of play. It's like, I was so frustrated through the first 2 games that they just look so bottled up, like bottled themselves up in their play calling. So it's just nice to see them unleash it. This team, like, for how much we've praised the passing attack, for how great Luther is, you talked about Cody Schrader, Kenny. He's leading the SEC in rushing yards. Like, this team runs the ball a lot comparatively to their conference opponents. Like, Cody Schrader has those 403 rush yards on 65 carries. Nathaniel Pete, 44 attempts. He's got 186 yards. Still waiting for some more production out of him. But like, this is a team definitely not afraid to put it on the ground, which I think is helpful right now with how limited Brady is with his own legs. So, I think that's definitely something to turn to. I'm going to look ahead. I'm going to keep doing this, even though I say that I will regret doing this, and I'm going to keep doing it. There was the piece of news I do want to ask, looking ahead, kind of, were you guys annoyed like I was to see, regardless of how this Vanderbilt game goes, that LSU now is an 11 a.m. kick in Columbia, or are you not really surprised at all?
Yes, Jesus, that really was annoying.
Okay.
I thought that should have been a night game. I thought it was ridiculous that it wasn't. I wasn't expecting the mid-afternoon CBS slot. Okay, that would have been primo, like, the game of the week. And I wasn't expecting that treatment quite yet from Mizzou. 11 a.m. sucks, man. Like, for fans, I get TV-wise, it's not a bad spot. It's better than getting the other 3:30 spot. 11 a.m. on ESPN is like the first game of the day that a lot of people are going to watch. But I was really hoping this would have gotten a night game treatment, but it's not really an excuse either way. I mean, it's a sold-out game. People will be there. The crowd was great for K-State, and that was at 11 a.m. But it is also annoying for me because I'm going to be in the car while that game is going on.
Brutal.
Yeah, you look at those two night games as well. The 6 o'clock game on ESPN is Georgia and Kentucky. SEC Network game is Ole Miss and Arkansas. Those are one ranked team against a non-ranked team. Arkansas has had its issues this year. Kentucky's offense isn't meeting the standard that we thought it would, and that's just kind of unfortunate. I mean, Alabama at Texas A&M could be a big game. Alabama rolling in to face Jimbo, and now Max Johnson at quarterback for the rest of the season. Yeah. And that's always going to be a fun game. There could always be an upset at Kyle Field as well for the 2:30. It's good they don't have the 3 o'clock game. That is Florida against Vanderbilt. They're burying that game. That's what it always is. I'm surprised they probably didn't do it with Western Michigan and Mississippi State, which is also an 11 a.m. kick. Overall, it made sense. It was either going to be 11 or 6. That's just probably the 2 time slots, and they ended up giving them the 11. Probably means that College Game Day isn't going to come to Columbia. And kind of looking at some of the other games that are going on that week, it probably made sense it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, isn't it Red River that week?
Yeah. Red River is that week, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the nail in the coffin. Yeah, okay, so I wasn't sure if I should have been how overly annoyed I should have been, but I'm on Peyton's side on that. I'm a little bit, I think Mizzou fans will feel a little bit slandered. I mean, that's, barring, again, this is all barring disaster here on Saturday, and we'll finish that off. But this is likely 2 ranked teams. I think it's a more fun matchup to me than Kentucky Georgia, which is the one they put at 6. I get Kentucky's also undefeated, but is that game in Athens too?
Yes, it is in Athens.
Jeez. I don't know.
Of a slot.
Yeah. I just don't get that.
Do you guys want to guess the line on that game? It's not out yet.
Whose line is it anyway?
Bet online.
BetOnline's line.
They don't have the line yet, but we could maybe just save it for later. I'm thinking because I want to know this line might be pretty big. It's going to be. I mean, we can assume Georgia's going to win this one as well.
Here's the thing. I don't think the line will be some crazy large spread just because Kentucky, because they've played and largely handled their first 4 games, even if they were bad teams they were playing, they grade out pretty well metrics wise, which I know these lines weigh pretty heavily on. So I don't think it'll be big. It'll be double digits, maybe close to 20. Especially because I think there's a non-zero chance. Yes, but here's the thing: it's not going to be
big for SEC.
20. For an SEC game, sure.
What do you say?
That's
20?
not Vanderbilt. That's big.
No, I don't think it's going to be 20. No, maybe it's around 2 touchdowns, maybe close to 17, in the 14 to 17 range. There's also a non-zero chance Kentucky loses to Florida. I think Kentucky will win, because I do think they're better than Florida, and the game is at Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I still think it'll be a sizable line, not like a crazy eye-popping line. And that game is at Kentucky, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the line will be, but yeah, I would guess Peyton's probably right. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to turn to that because that was a scheduling thing that kind of annoyed me. But again, segueing back, you got to focus on the team that's ahead of you. We hope that's what, a coach who has struggled on the road in Eli Drinkwitz is doing. And Kenny, we talked about this before we started. We want to do one thing each to close it out that we're looking at from. We talked about this Vanderbilt team a little bit, but either I'll start with Peyton, and then Kenny, and I'll go last. But one thing, Peyton, you're maybe honing in, whether it's something you touched on already or something else from just this game that fans should keep an eye on.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing I'm looking for on Vandy is whether it's Swann or Seals, can Mizzou bottle up those 2 receivers? I mean, Shepard and McGowan, who Kenny mentioned.
Not a fan of McGowan.
Kenny mentioned it earlier with Shepard and McGowan. I mean, those 2 are really dynamic. I think Shepard is an NFL receiver for sure. McGowan is still so young. but they have shown in the past they can be explosive. And with how often Blake Baker likes to blitz, there's going to be times where Cad and Ennis, assuming they play, are left on an island with those two. Can they hold up against them? That is the main thing I'm going to watch. Last year they did largely hold up. That's another thing. Mizzou was so close with Vanderbilt last year. I mean, that game almost got away from them. So I don't think Mizzou is going to overlook this Vanderbilt team. And I think it comes down to, can they bottle up that potentially explosive offense?
You talked about the defense a little bit, talked about the quarterback, talked about wide receiver. I want to talk about something different. Talk about Matthew Hayball, the Vanderbilt punter. This past week, he was the Ray Guy Award punter of the week. And, for good measure, this is a very good punter. During Hawaii, the first week against Hawaii, his long was 71. Next week, long 54, 63, 58, 62. This guy can boot it. He punted 7 times against Kentucky for 352 yards. He's getting inside the 20-yard line at 47% of his punts. And I mean, this guy can pin it. And this is probably something just Eric Link needs to keep his eye on about how to return against this guy or how to let this ball go. But it looks like he can pin inside the 20 and not let it roll into the end zone.
Go to the YouTube right before Kenny just said that to see Peyton is embodying like every Mizzou fan's agony at special teams. That's an important note. I mean, Mizzou's done nothing in the return game. So if you couple that with the fact that they've got a punter who can stick it, it's a little scary.
I wish there was a way we could find a link between the struggles on special teams for Mizzou. That's really, it has been a thing.
You seem to say that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what the link
I wonder
could be.
why that could be.
I don't know.
But
nice,
one,
Kenny.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, special teams. That's why that one Chargers team never made the playoffs. I'm going to turn to a far less probably important factor, but I want to turn everyone's attention to preseason. I brought it up in the little intro I did. This is a stadium, Drink struggled in road environments, and this isn't just any road environment. You guys, they're playing in a construction site here. This stadium is under construction. Their scoreboard's held up by cranes. And, for a first true road test, I mean, I know Vanderbilt's, it's not Death Valley. It's not Tuscaloosa. It's no, widely well-known college football game day atmosphere. But, I mean, playing in a construction site, weird things can happen. I'm just saying Mizzou's got to keep their wits about them on the road. In a stadium held up by cranes. In the middle of Nashville.
What is your favorite form of construction equipment? And do you think it'll be at this game, Jack?
Oh, that's a great question. I think Mizzou or Vanderbilt could use this to advantage. Just have a guy with like one of those big jackhammers, like that's really loud, just make a lot of noise during a third down. Maybe add to the fandom. I don't know. Blow a wrecking ball right through just work during the game. That's what I would do if I was Vanderbilt.
Honestly, Jack, I mean, that's a good point to bring up. I mean, this is such a weird road environment, and it's the first one of the year. Like, it's important. Right. And we know Drink has had road struggles in the past. So that's a good point, actually. Just don't get weirded out by the environment, no matter how loud or quiet it is and whether there's construction work going on or not. I mean, just keep your focus.
Locked in. Gotta be locked
maybe
in.
It's a big day for Logan Reichert, whose nickname was Dump Truck in high school. And if you guys remember correctly, Eli Drinkwitz showed up on a recruiting visit with a dump truck.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. I think he did that with Armand Membu as well.
There you go. Maybe bring the dump truck to the game and just leave it there. Maybe that'll help them to get their stadium done faster. I mean,
and Eli said before that Logan Reichert's been looking good in practice. He's competing for a spot on the offensive line.
Hey, do we have a Brett?
Freshman.
Do we have a Brett Norfleet update?
Peyton had one.
Did
I miss it?
Yeah, he's probably going to
say it again. Oh, okay, he's back. All right, good. Sorry, I missed that. Mental lapse.
Listen.
Well, but yeah, playing construction site. Don't get weirded out by the environment. Drink. Maybe bring the dump truck. That's my final stance. But yeah, Mizzou Vanderbilt 3:00 kick on the road. First true road test for the Tigers, trying to go 5-0, improve on where they were, and not have a repeat of 2019. We will see what happens with that. We'll see what Mizzou can do on Saturday at 3:30. This is the Unwritten Rule presented by Bet Online.